Welcome to the show, everybody. Super excited to have with me today Josef Marc. Josef, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Crypto Lark, can I call you that?
Absolutely. Now, I've had so many requests from my subscribers to talk about Publica, so it's really exciting to get you on. I know there's been a lot of questions. A lot of people want to know about the project or interested in the project. But for anybody who kind of hasn't had a look at Publica yet, give us the elevator pitch. What are you doing?
We're building a platform for independent authors to run their own business. And we discovered that a blockchain is really, really helpful for that. It's the smart contracts that you've heard of on Ethereum kind of embody, once a author can put together their business model. And to quote our own developers, if you can say it, we can code it. So there you go.
There you go. I like it. So it's open source. It's decentralized. You're looking at protocol level. So it's a really interesting project. Basically, you're a publisher with no inventory.
Yes.
I like that. I like that. It's a very interesting concept. Now we're going to get into some of the real nitty-gritty details of how everything works, but I want to start off with ScandiWeb. Can you explain how ScandiWeb is related to Publica? Who are the partners with ScandiWeb that's going to make this all, work and interesting?
The easy way to remember it is Publica is sort of a spin-off of ScandiWeb. And in Silicon Valley, you would call that a stage 2 startup because it usually takes a year or much longer to get a startup up to that point where you've got teams that know how to work together. They've already got a lot of experience and so on. So it makes Publica a stage 2 startup, and that's a huge advantage for us. And my two partners are Yuri Pimenov, CTO, and Anton Saprico, who is the CEO of ScandiWeb. So Anton's has come to work nearly full-time on Publica, and he also was able to attract sort of there's about 200 people working at ScandiWeb, and they're very good in the e-commerce space. They're one of the leading providers of full stack vertical agency. And those who are the most interested in the blockchain evolution have joined the Publica team. So it's an incredible advantage. I call it our unfair advantage, actually.
It is kind of an unfair advantage. You've already got this great team of people who are there and are being utilized to create and push Publica forward. So that's really great. That is really, really great. Now, if I'm an author and I want to publish a book with Publica, what are some of the benefits for me? Why would I choose to come to you and not somebody else?
Well, ultimately, because you're in control, right? We don't need your rights. We don't need to take a part of your business. We just have to charge a small platform maintenance fee. So it really remains at the core of what I call a creative entrepreneur, right? If you're in a creative business, writing is an art. And if you're going to take an entrepreneurial approach to it, then this is the place to do it. That's the main benefit. Now, to an author, I would quote, this is a new distribution channel. That's something they understand. A new distribution channel, great. It has a lot in common with the other distribution channels, but the differences are really important. And that's the opening paragraph of that's the opening paragraph of an open letter to independent authors that I've given to the Alliance of Independent Authors to publish in their forthcoming white paper called Blockchain for Books. It's a 3-page open letter, but it starts with that core idea.
I think that's a powerful core idea, and it'll probably speak to I think a lot of authors. There's a lot of things I was reading about in your white paper and on your website that really make it interesting. So Public is a protocol. So even if, I don't know, ScandiWeb goes bankrupt or whatever, the protocol keeps running. And so,
That's right.
Your books will still be registered on the blockchain. Your creative work will still be registered on the blockchain. I think it's actually a really interesting use of blockchain as well, because it's an immutable place where you've definitely had that idea and here it is, it's registered. And I think that's really cool too. Now, can you talk a little bit about the use of blockchain for authors, like with payments and transparency and things like that?
Well, you're right. It's a protocol, and if Publica stopped, well, we assume that a perennial selling book will outlive Publica the company, right? So that's why it's a protocol. It will keep working forever. So you don't really need a blockchain to copyright something. Copyright laws are already there, or to timestamp them, right? That's kind of automatic. As soon as what do they call it in copyright law? A tangible form exists. There's your timestamp. But what we needed the blockchain for was the smart contract that goes on and on and on, because books go on and on and on. So, and then in publishing, I worked in publishing many decades ago. I'm not going to say how many, but a lot of them. And one of the pain points has always been, we call them auditing, right? How do you audit the publisher? And in Publica's case, there's absolutely no need. Same if you have a digital wallet now, you know that you just open it up and you look at all the transactions. And if you want, you can go look at Bitcoins and Ethereums and any other blockchain, just go read them. So I'm really looking forward to someone in the blockchain space, maybe Agora, will produce the QuickBooks for blockchains and just make that automatic, So that's really at the core, again, business.
Yep. That's it. Well, of course, the immediate, or as immediate as the blockchain gets, I guess, with payment as well for a reader buying something from the author. The author gets paid out straight away. They don't have to wait a month or, sometimes even longer. I've heard about, book deals taking crazy amounts of time to actually settle. And that's, if you got, I don't know, bills to pay and all this stuff, you can't be waiting a year and a half, whatever sometimes the crazy contracts are. Now, what about for the readers? Where are the benefits in Publica for the person who wants to come buy a book?
Well, Forbes magazine actually said it better than I did. And in my blog, there's a post called "Forbes Said It Better Than I Did." Because
give credit where credit's due.
Exactly. I don't even know that journalist. And I was writing a blog post about kind of the same topic, and then it was only a couple hours away from posting when I saw the Forbes article, and I went, "You can't make that up." But it's true. For a reader, of course, if you want a book, you're going to go find it. Oh, like that's easy? Sign in where? Sign in the other place. Try the other place, right? No, let's start with your search engine, which is where you should. And why the search engine? It's because it aggregates the wisdom of crowds and aggregates human activity. And so we said, well, in the author's journey, which is what we call it, there at some stage on Publica's platform, you bring everything you know about your journey out to where Google can find it, the readers can find it. So the readers, when they start to find anything about a book or an author, join together with a community. It's much more fun that way, right? And of course you want a book, but you also want to bring together the threads of your lives. And in a Publica author's journey event, similar to crowdfunding, it's fun to do. And you do it with the other publicans, as we call them. And there's this wonderful souvenir at the end, the book. And so it's memories for a lifetime, plus the book.
Plus the book. I'll take the book too. Why not?
So after you have the book, though, it gets really interesting for both readers and authors. So again, that's why we call if you discover a book after it's already on what we call its perennial seller page, because the initial offering of that book has already passed, right? So now it's a perennial seller. Literally, it's going to sell forever.
Yeah,
we can't stop it. We can't turn it off.
That's good, though. That's great.
So, for the reader, not only is there that discovery, but tokens. I mean, that's really fun. You exchange them, you sell them, you buy some more. I bought the book on Tuesday, and then suddenly President Trump says something silly, and now that book is worth 10 times as much. I've already read it. Maybe I want to sell my token. So that's a benefit you can't get anywhere else.
That's really interesting too. I do like the idea of the resale market because once you read the book, you can actually sell. So that's the read token, correct?
Yes, yeah, we call that the read token. Yeah.
So that's actually a good segue into that. Let's discuss the difference because there are two tokens. There's the Pebble token and there's the read token. What are the differences between those two?
Well, the read token should be as simple to understand as it sounds like. If you have the token, you can read it. And then Pebbles, PBL is the ticker. We call them Pebbles because Pebbles are solid at rest and fluid in motion. So from an author's perspective, one author, many, many readers. So that's like a fire hose. So an author doesn't actually want to, go buy a pizza every time someone wants to buy a book. So the pebbles collect. And then when the author has a reason to move the pebbles, they need to go smoothly and easily and quickly, right? So if you look at it from both perspectives, that's the difference between the tokens. Read a book, that's easy. Move my pebbles.
I like it. So essentially, the read token is essentially the book. If I want to buy, let's just say Jane Austen or something. Okay, I got my Jane Austen read token, essentially. And the pebbles, so the authors are going to get paid in pebbles. That's how that will work as far as the settlement system?
Well, they're going to accumulate pebbles.
Accumulate them, exactly. And so when they want to cash out, they can cash out using the pebbles. Very interesting.
Because for an author, it resembles money. Because if you're an author, you don't actually mix your personal money with your work money. So it's an account of pebbles, and then there are tokens that you trade for something else. If what the next thing you want to buy isn't a pebble, it isn't for sale with pebbles. However, books take a village, especially quality books. If you write long form, you should not do this without an editor. And if you want a book to be understandable quickly for the reader who's in the discovery phase, you're going to want some illustrations, and you're going to probably want some form of marketer or community manager or someone who's going to help take care of the community around you in your book while you're typing your next one. And then there's this other function that we used to have in publishing. It's kind of went away when the publisher started downsizing, but it's the book packager. It's actually a critical function in publishing. They're not an agent. They're not a publisher. It's probably the most famous one is Seth Godin. Just type Seth in any search engine. And he was a book packager for 9 years before he started his world famous blog. And he still talks about it. It's an important function. You kind of package the whole thing together. Right? So all those people would want to get paid with pebbles for the same reason.
They'll all be on, and there'll be a marketplace, so they'll all be on that ecosystem where they can actually get paid in that. So that's really great. So I'm an author. I'm there publishing a book. I got to pay a small fee to you guys to register my book, right? In Pebble.
Oh, no, not to register. The platform maintenance fee is kind of like Ethereum's gas. In fact, we have to pay the gas with our maintenance fee.
Yeah, of course. There you go.
Same idea. It's, if the pebbles have to move somewhere, then they have to move through Ethereum, and so until you move pebbles. So who's going to move the pebbles? Well, people have read tokens might move pebbles if they resale. And the way I think of that is every university books, right? I would love to be able to buy books for all of my nieces and nephews and their children when they go to university, but I don't really want to give them all my credit card. So
it's a good idea. It's good advice.
And when they come to the end of the class, I'd like them to find the next student who needs that book. And if the author gets a cut of that, because that's what it says in the smart contract, and the student gets a cut, just call it a sales commission for the student. And that's something students need to learn anyway.
That's great.
Yeah. So these are, that's where the platform maintenance fee comes in. Because when I buy the textbook and then the student sells it to the next student, I don't want to pay for that either. I already bought the book and gave
Yeah.
it to him.
Yeah, that's great. That's really interesting, actually. It's, the great part about ebooks that are secondhand is that they're new. They're new. It's not like a secondhand book that someone else has written all over, and
And they're in perfect condition.
that's it. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, if I am a small publisher, say I'm a Wellington-based book publisher, how can I get involved? Is this useful for me, or are you going to put me out of business?
Great. Oh gosh, I hope not. No, I think that publishers and authors and readers can actually have aligned incentives, because a publisher has a lot. For one thing, they know a good book when they see one, but they should. Authors and readers and publishers can and should work together. In fact, there was this pretty famous book that came out of your part of the world, 50 Shades of Grey, I believe, from the Writers' Coffee Shop. And so that was a community that formed around that author, and now it's worldwide. And so the Writers' Coffee Shop, I presume, calls itself a publisher. And maybe they serve coffee too, which is great. And that's why I wrote the blog post. I wrote one called A Billion Stores with a Common Linkage. And that's because, so what is a publisher? Why can't a coffee shop be a publisher? And if you're a publisher, why not sell coffee if you have an office, right? Because
People will come and read your books and probably buy them while they're having
yeah, well,
coffee.
so read that blog post. It'll tell you more about but that idea. But no, small publishers should definitely come to Publica for sure.
Very, very interesting. Now, okay, let's think first. Go ahead. Oh, there you go.
And exactly. and bring your digital wallet while you're at it.
Now, look, what if I'm on the platform and I don't know, I buy, coffee roasting for dummies from some guy, and I get the book. You know what? I just don't like this book. Can I get a refund on it, or do I have to go to the secondary market to resell it and hope somebody will buy it off me?
Well, no, because it's not our book. It depends on who you think you deserve the refund from. But it's not Publica's book and never was.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Great.
And you don't subscribe to us, right? You don't give us your credit card. If you buy a book with a credit card, well, we just send that out to an exchange to find out what that is in virtual currency and so on. But it's you're not buying it directly from us. You're buying it from the independent author business or the independent publisher business.
That's it. You're just setting up the protocol for all this to run on.
Right.
Very, very interesting. Now, let's talk a little bit about the roadmap here. Now, the project is essentially starting now. You guys are already working on it. And so now this runs through until the full operational protocol is going to be out in December. Is that correct?
Well, that's the roadmap we published at the time of our own initial coin offering, because we wanted to make an explanation, sort of explain how this roadmap works. And so everyone working at Publica and ScandiWeb, basically, they now have an emotional understanding of what it's like to do an ICO. So that's why the roadmap that you saw stretches out through the year, because according to our budgeting plans, that's plenty of time. However, the overwhelming demand, both from readers and authors and publishers, and I mean a fire hose. And I don't know when you're going to publish this, but I can tell you that that next Monday, January 22nd, we're open for business.
Wow.
That's what I said.
Talk
Are you sure?
11 months ahead of schedule. That's pretty good. Don't you know how the blockchain space works? You're supposed to, overpromise, be super late in delivery. This is not how it works. You're not supposed to deliver early. That's great. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we're trying to do, the author's journey, as we call it, starts on January 22nd. And authors, publishers, book packagers, illustrators, service providers, CryptoLark, please, because you've got a story to tell. Tell your story. Register. We can only in the beginning here, we're trying to keep it manageable, get some metrics going, get some performance things going. So we're planning like once each month, we're going to cap it at 1,000 authors,
Mm-hmm.
or 1,000 registrants, because we want to see what it's like for them to learn the author's journey. So when you register, you get to exclusive content where you start teaching each other and learning from our videos and tutorials and so on. What do I do next? How do I maximize the value of my author's journey? And then next month we can do that again with another batch.
I'm really happy to hear that. When I hear that, I'm just thinking you guys are really making sure that the people who come in
Mm-hmm.
get it right, and that you're going to get it right, and that you're not going to onboard too many people, be, too greedy to start like, take everybody, let's take 20 million people right now, and then you're down all the time and everyone leaves. So that's great. Now, I want to move on to the Go ahead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Books are a long game. Books are actually an infinite game. And in game theory, infinite game means it gets better the longer you play. So like in China, Go is an infinite game and so on. So yeah, while we are ahead of schedule on the roadmap, we're not trying to boil the ocean by February. Yeah.
Nice. I want to talk a little bit about the competition. Now, there are some other blockchain projects who are kind of working in the same space, to an extent library credits, to an extent decent, but I think probably the most applicable comparison to your project would probably Poet. And so how would you compare to them?
Yeah, we're kind of contemporaries, right? And I'd love to meet Poet's leadership, and I've written this publicly several times and said it. I'm going to assume that any author, reader, publisher, service provider, book packager that gets involved with Poet would just bring their Poet information or project to the Publica platform, because I don't actually see any competition.
Mm-hmm.
And we're kind of doing different things. And so, the smart contract for this book, the perennial seller page, I don't actually see that being something that Poet is really pursuing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely what we're after, the perennial seller. So Decent, actually, did you mention them?
I did, yep.
Okay. That was it was like a year ago or more when they started. And I really love a lot of things they said, right? And what a great name, Decent.
It is a good name.
And so those principles, I think, also fit Publica's DNA, because, as you can see, we're incredibly transparent. We're decent people, and that's why we're doing this. So I would encourage Decent as well to come on over and let's just work together. But you left out the elephant in the room.
Is that Amazon?
And that one.
Yeah. The multi-billion-dollar elephant that's really, really big. So yeah, that was going to be the next question. What are you going to do about Amazon?
So my first blog post is called "Amazon is King, Isn't It?" And please look that one up, because the image is important. And I used it again in the open letter to independent authors that Alliance for Independent Authors is going to publish. And the best way to think of it is the image that I used. There's this Great Dane looking just beautiful, regal, in charge of the king of everything he can see. At his ankle is a Chihuahua staring straight into the sun fiercely, and she's got business on her mind. And my caption is, it's not a competition if you're not looking in the same places. So
you're the Chihuahua. I love it.
and so are the authors and the readers, right? And the publishers and everyone who wants to learn, what is a blockchain for books and why is that a good thing? Why should I go on this author's journey? The author knows why they're going on the journey. Why is the reader going on the journey with the author? So you have a constituency of your own, and you're looking fiercely into the sun, and you've got business on your mind. So you're the Chihuahua too. And you belong in you should be a publican.
Maybe you just never know. It's a really exciting project though, and I think obviously competitors in the space are a great thing. They keep you on your toes. And of course, anyone that can challenge the supremacy of Amazon is a good thing, because it's not a good thing to have all this power in one place. Not to mention, of course, that what you're offering for authors is in a lot of ways better than what Amazon offers for authors, because they take a certain percentage in fees and all these things. Now, of course, obviously they have a very big audience, so that's why they can demand those fees. But your audience will grow. It's like you said, it's one brick at a time. It gets there over the long period.
Well, you are you're in Wellington, I believe. You know that 96% of the world has never logged into Amazon.
Wow.
So again, we're not looking in the same places. So this is what I tell authors: if you think that Kindle is your best option, then embrace it. I mean, just do everything they ask you to, read everything that's on your author's dashboard, try every resource, and never say an unkind word about Amazon in public or in private, because you've embraced it. If that doesn't work for you, and by the way, we don't call it independent, we call it a job. So Publica isn't a job. We can't offer you a job. If you, that's our approach to the world and Amazon and competition in general. So, and Jeff Bezos I think is a great guy. He wrote in 2002 an open letter to the Authors Guild, where he tried to explain to them, you really don't want to do this digital rights management end user license agreement thing where we can erase George Orwell's 1984 because we have an argument with Hachette. He's the one that said that was a bad idea. So congratulations, Jeff. You're right. Here we are.
Well, interesting too, and that's a really good segue into my next question here, and that is, what about different jurisdictional issues? In Russia, you can't buy Mein Kampf. In Thailand, you can't buy any books that are criticizing the king. In China, they have problems with any books that are criticizing the Chinese government. How do you deal with those kind of issues?
Well, I don't expect to do it any better than they're doing with Bitcoin, for example. But blockchains are blockchains, right? So read tokens go where they go. People trade them, and if you wherever you live, you should obey your laws. You should pay your taxes wherever you're a tax resident. However, to make it personal, I told my staff here at Publica, they're not my staff, but I told everyone, if Edward Snowden ever wants to write his autobiography on Publica, I'm an American, so I could actually go to jail, but do it because it's the blockchain, and books are more important than I am.
That's it. Knowledge is important. This is a stand has to be taken, and it's nice to actually have digital copies, because those are going to be even easier to move to an extent. Sending read tokens across the blockchain. So, have you ever thought about introducing any kind of privacy features to help move illicit books? Something you can put under your hat for later, maybe.
No. I told Publica something else. Actually, we had a question about this from publicans, and I wrote that we would never ask anyone who works at Publica to do something they don't want to do. So, just take the hands off the keyboard if it's horrible, and it's a protocol. So, open source e-reader wallet. We have sessions with our developers basically explaining how this works. You don't actually need us to do that.
Very, very, very interesting. Now, the final point I want to make today is, it's so exciting, and I think you're building a great community. If anyone out there wants to become a publican, how do they do that? How do they get involved?
So the group we formally call the Publicans is a Telegram channel. So if you're a Telegram user, just go find the Publicans. It's great fun. If you are involved in the business of books, just go register for the Author's Journey. And if you just want to keep an eye on the project, then watch my blog. It's on Medium.
Very, very cool. This has been a great chat. I'm really excited about this project. I'm definitely gonna be keeping close eyes on it as it moves forward. Best of luck for the launch coming up here and bringing all the authors in. And I hope it goes really
Thanks.
smoothly and that the authors really uptake and that you just keep onboarding people because it's a really great idea. And I think that when people find out about it, they're going to respond to it.
And thank you. It's wonderful to meet you, CryptoLark. And please bear in mind that at this moment, you and I are literally on opposite sides of the planet, which depending on which way you hold your globe. And that's a blockchain for books. Let's do it.
There you go. Let's do it. Let's do it. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.